Let's begin the story. Rumpelstiltskin. In a small village lived a miller who loved to tell tall tales. One day, he foolishly boasted to the king, "My daughter, Alara, is no ordinary girl. She has a magical gift. She can spin straw into shimmering gold." The king's eyes, as greedy as a dragon's, widened with interest. He did not care if it was true, he only cared about the gold. He immediately ordered his guards to bring the miller's daughter to the castle. Alara was terrified, her heart thumping like a drum as the stern-faced guards led her away from her home. The king led Alara to a cold, dusty tower room, piled high to the ceiling with scratchy, yellow straw. "Spin all of this into gold by morning, or you will pay a terrible price," he boomed, his voice echoing off the stone walls before he locked the heavy oak door. Alara sank onto a pile of straw, tears streaming down her cheeks. The room smelled of dry fields and despair. How could she possibly do this? It was an impossible task, and she felt completely and utterly alone, with only the moonlight shining through the barred window. Suddenly, in a puff of green, sparkly smoke, a very peculiar little man appeared right in front of her. He was no taller than a stool, with a long, pointy beard, a crooked hat, and shoes that curled up at the toes. He hopped from one foot to the other, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Why are you crying, miller's daughter?" he chirped in a squeaky voice. "What troubles you so much that your tears could fill a thimble?" Alara, startled but desperate, decided to tell him about the king's impossible demand. The little man cackled. "Spinning straw into gold. That's easy for me, but what will you give me if I do your work for you?" Alara looked down at her simple dress and then touched the pretty silver necklace her mother had given her. "I will give you this necklace," she whispered, holding it out. The man's eyes gleamed as he snatched it. He sat at the spinning wheel, and with a whir and a hum, the straw began to twist into threads of pure, shining gold. It was truly a magical sight. When the sun rose, the king unlocked the door and gasped in amazement. The entire room was filled with spools of glittering gold thread. His greed, however, was not satisfied. It only grew bigger. "You have done well," he said, a sly smile on his face, "but we must test your gift again." He led Alara to a much larger room, even more crammed with straw than the first. The task seemed even more impossible now, and Alara's heart sank with dread as the heavy door slammed shut once more, leaving her alone again. Just as before, Alara wept, feeling hopeless. And just as before, the strange little man appeared in his puff of green smoke. "More tears, miller's daughter," he squeaked, rubbing his hands together. "I can help you again, but my price has gone up. What will you give me this time?" Alara looked at her hands and saw the small, sparkling ruby ring her father had given her for her birthday. It was her last treasure. With a trembling hand, she slid it off her finger and gave it to him. He grinned and started to spin. The next morning, the king was overjoyed to find the second room filled with gold. "One last time," he declared, leading Alara to the castle's enormous great hall, which was packed to the rafters with straw. "Succeed, and you shall be my queen." When the little man appeared that night, Alara had nothing left to offer. "Then promise me something for the future," he hissed. "Promise me your firstborn child when you are queen." Fearing for her life and seeing no other choice, Alara tearfully agreed. The wheel spun, and her fate was sealed. The king kept his promise, and Alara became the queen. She lived in the beautiful castle, wore fine gowns, and the king was kind to her. In her new life, surrounded by happiness and comfort, she almost forgot about the strange little man and the terrifying promise she had made in the dark, straw-filled room. A year passed, and the whole kingdom celebrated when the queen gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby. The queen's heart was filled with more love and joy than she had ever known. She felt her life was finally perfect. One afternoon, as the queen was rocking her baby to sleep in the royal nursery, a puff of smoke appeared by the cradle. The impish little man stood there, his eyes gleaming greedily. "I have come for what is mine," he shrieked with a triumphant laugh. "You promised me your firstborn child." The queen's blood ran cold with terror. She offered him all the jewels, gold, and riches in the entire kingdom. "Please, take anything else," she cried, clutching her baby tightly. "But he is not for you," she pleaded desperately. The queen's desperate pleas and heartbroken tears seemed to touch the little man's strange heart, just a little. He tapped his pointy chin in thought. "I am not a monster," he said, though he certainly looked like one. "I will give you one chance. You have 3 days to guess my name. If you can discover my secret name in that time, you may keep your child forever. But if you fail," he added with a wicked grin, "the baby is mine." He then vanished as quickly as he had appeared, leaving the queen in despair. On the first day, the queen sent her most trusted messengers to every corner of the kingdom. They were to collect every single name they could find. They returned with long lists, ordinary names like John and Michael, and slightly fancier ones like Bartholomew and Sebastian. That night, the little man appeared. The queen read name after name. "Is your name Caspar, Balthazar, Melchior?" she asked hopefully. But after each guess, the little man simply shook his head, chuckled, and gleefully chirped, "No, that is not my name." He then disappeared, leaving her with only 2 days left. The second day was even more frantic. The queen remembered all the silly, strange names she had ever heard in stories. When the little man appeared that evening, she tried again. "Is it perhaps Spindleshanks? Or maybe Sheepshanks? Could it be Ribcage?" she asked, her voice trembling with anxiety. The little man only laughed a high-pitched, mocking laugh. He danced a little jig on the floor, clapping his hands. "Wrong again, my queen. Wrong again," he sang before vanishing, leaving the queen with only one final chance to save her beloved child. On the morning of the third and final day, just as the queen was losing all hope, a single, dusty messenger returned from deep within the woods. "Your Majesty," he panted, "I saw the strangest sight. A funny little man was dancing around a bonfire, hopping on one leg and singing a ridiculous song." The queen leaned forward, her heart pounding. The messenger continued, "He sang, 'Today I brew, tomorrow I bake, then the queen's child I will take. For little does my lady dream that Rumpelstiltskin is my name." The queen's eyes widened. That night, the little man arrived, looking more smug than ever. "Well, Your Majesty," he sneered, "what is your final guess?" The queen took a deep breath, pretending to think hard. "Is your name Conrad?" she asked. "No." He laughed. "Is it Henry?" She tried again. "Wrong." He cackled. Then, she looked him right in the eye and said, "Then perhaps your name is Rumpelstiltskin." The man shrieked with rage, stomped his foot so hard it broke through the floorboards, and vanished in a puff of angry smoke, never to be seen again. This is the story of Rumpelstiltskin.